welcome to the show, Máté. Really pleased to have you on. Excited when you said you'd join us because, as you know, you've been on our radar for some time, and I know you've got a good reputation in the Databricks ecosystem, and I think you're the first Databricks MVP that we've had on the show, so been really looking forward to this one.
Oh yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on. I didn't know I was the first one, but I'm gonna certainly use that tagline, like first MVP ever on the show.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah,
do
great
it.
to be here. I've been in the Databricks ecosystem quite a long time, so it's actually pretty exciting that other people are also interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exciting times.
Well, I mean, yeah, cool. So to kick things off, let's do a little bit of a background on yourself and on Datapao, and then we can dive into today's topic, which is going to be key takeaways from last week's summit and what they mean for both data engineers and for businesses.
Yeah.
So yeah, if it's all right with you, just give us a bit of background on yourself and on Datapao.
Yeah, so my name is Máté. I'm a CEO of Datapao. We are only focusing on Databricks. So we teach Databricks. We help companies use Databricks, and obviously the underlying technology like AWS and Azure. And we also help business teams understand the benefit of using a data platform. We are coming from the technical background, but we also serve as a bridge between the business and the technical teams or the IT teams usually. My background is technical, so I started out in distributed systems back in university, and then that's how I ended up in the Hadoop ecosystem. So I did some consulting on Hadoop clusters and then cloud data clusters. And that's how Spark came into the picture. And Databricks, I started working with Databricks back in 2016 as an instructor first, and I helped other customers at the time. It was very US based, so I think when I joined, Databricks was like 80 people or so. It's very small. And then as it grew and globally started to get more and more known, I started to focus more and more on Europe, basically. And I was principal instructor and practice lead. So did a lot of customer engagements. But eventually, as we started to grow, I started to focus more and more on less delivery and more technical strategy and helping heads of data how they can use the technology, but also how they can build their own technology strategy on the, let's say, 5 years horizon. And now I deal with some strategic customers and work with other technical experts. So, shows like yours is super good because you can also listen to this global community that now we have. And we as a company focus mostly on the UK and a bit of Central Europe. So heavily focus on the UK, but we consider ourselves more as a European one, but mostly in the UK. I think that's the kind of the gist of it.
Yeah, very good. Interesting journey, and that's led us both out to the summit last week.
Yeah.
So yeah, for you, what were the most important announcements to come out of the summit?
Yeah, and I am, as I said, I did teaching, and I want to emphasize that I don't think without learning new technologies, and especially for me that with Databricks, I've never ever end up in San Francisco on my own. So that was my, I think, 8th summit, but every time I was in San Francisco, it was because of like Databricks or Spark. So yes. I usually tell people, if you also want to get to San Francisco, which I highly encourage, just learn a technology that's coming up like Databricks, and you almost get there for free. So
you'll have reason to
go.
Good
opportunity. Yeah. But the summit, I think it's definitely the highlight of the year because you get into a very high energy event with a lot of people who are excited about, by and large, the same thing.
Yeah.
And so that's super exciting. And what makes it so energetic is that you see all the developments, and all the developments kind of show you where the whole thing is going. It's always very difficult to see what's going on the trends and in these larger trends, because you're always stuck in what you do on every day. But for me, those announcements were the most important one that showed me that this is the direction we're going. And so Lakebase, I think that's pretty much the one that everyone is talking about, at least since I came back and I go around the office. Everyone is looking at what it can do. I also talked to customers, and they were very excited about what it means for them and how they can start experimenting or even using that. So Lakebase, I would say number one. For me, the other ones are interesting new developments on the business side too. So a lot of features that show that how the platform is evolving, and generally those are the ones that I would highlight for me personally. But I think the good thing also in the summit is everyone can find something, so that's super exciting.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, I mean, you may have partly answered this, but if you're a data engineer following the summit, what's the first thing that you'd be wanting to prioritize or learn now?
It's a pretty good question. There's a lot of ways to answer that. So let me start by, I think, number one, I would start learning the new features, because that's, when they announce something like Lakebase, it's usually very high level. So you need to start getting into the details and the limitations. For instance, I think Lakebase is actually pretty interesting because it's a database, but I think you should understand that it's mostly for data intensive applications. So I wouldn't immediately rule out all the interesting other databases that are still out there. And generally, I think what became somewhat clear for me is how we really move towards the business side. So I think those skills will be more and more important, and that's where I would really focus a lot.
Okay, so like focusing in on Lakebase a little more then. So yeah, tell me about Lakebase. What is it, and why does it matter?
Yeah, so definitely it's kind of towards this modern ETL, modern data platform for me. The Lakebase is this part of this last mile, which is the once we have a data platform, and usually that's where we spend most of our time in the last, 10 years, but we always handed the data over to some other application, right? Or some other database to serve it. So we always had this end wall, and our garden, or what we've done was, in this, between these walls. And Lakebase, and by the way, some others are now moving that wall further and further, because now we can put all that data that we work in a database, and we can serve all these downstream applications right out of the Databricks platform. So this means for me that as data engineers, now we have a much larger garden to tend to, but that's also pretty exciting. And I think some of the tooling that we have now, the declarative pipelines, the zero bus, these are better and better tools, so we can do more at the same time, which is not a new thing. One of my really fundamental experiences as a data engineer, that, as I mentioned, I started in Hadoop clusters, and it's a funny story, Joe, that when I worked in a cloud data cluster or a Hadoop cluster, I ordered like hard disks. I don't know if you remember these old physical boxes. Like I had
I'm
to
old
put
enough for that,
servers
yeah.
together. Yeah. And so I had to go down to a data center and physically plug in servers. And then, at some point with the cloud, I could click and create a server in Frankfurt or, Arizona. And now if you can just write basically the business logic, like you don't even deal with like clusters anymore. You don't even deal with compute. It's just literally writing the code. So that's pretty interesting as a data engineer, that all of my knowledge is, I would say, not totally useless that I had back then, but certainly not the skills that I use every day or we use every day. So all of that, all of those low-level things are going away, and our job in this, what I think is, we can call it the modern data platform or a modern data engineering, is now on a much higher level. We can do a lot more putting these things together. I think from this summit, certainly the declarative pipelines, the Lakeflow, everything in Lakeflow, the designer, the connectors. Now we don't have to write those ingestion code to get the data and anything. Change data capture, which was another funny thing. Back in university, I had like a separate class just on that. Like, how do you integrate data and make it useful for the business? And now it's like a pipeline, and it does everything. So, which would have been super helpful back in when I had to learn all of that just for an exam. But, I think this is really how, as a data engineer, I think about our job now is just to put these solutions together, more like playing Lego, rather than all those low-level stuff.
Yeah, nice. And what about for the businesses using Databricks? Like, what does this mean on the business side?
Yeah, I think it has a very large impact. So number one, obviously the cost of a solution is going down. And every business where they decide that, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to hire data engineers to build this solution, they always make some kind of return on investment calculation. But the return on investment is, it's two things, right? It's the what do we get and what does it cost. Now, if we can do more as data engineers, even though our salaries are growing because of our impact, it's still much cheaper to build a solution. So now more and more business use cases are now basically candidates for as a data solution, because the cost is lower. So you don't have to have that much in like return to get a positive end result. And I think that's one. Number two, if I come back to this example, right? If you need to build a solution and you need to know networking, if you need to know hardware, if you need to know data centers, if you need to know local regulations about what kind of servers where you can put in the data center, obviously that's a lot of knowledge that the business side doesn't have anything of. Like, it doesn't have anything out of that. But if the knowledge that you need to have, the skills that you need to have to build a solution is just getting boxes together and connecting them on your screen, then obviously as a business user I can do more. And I think that's one big benefit, that more and more use cases are candidates for a solution. Second, business teams can do more on their own, and I think that also has an effect on us data engineers. Yeah. Because we are getting closer and closer to the business. So I think for businesses, this is also pretty exciting because of all those developments.
Okay, very good. And then Unity Catalog. So where is Unity Catalog headed after what we saw at the summit?
Yeah, I actually had a discussion with some Databricks folks about, when these things like Unity Catalog or Delta or these things were introduced a couple of years back, what they thought about them. And I had a very good and honest discussion. I am not going to name the person, but based out of the UK, who told me that, like, when Unity Catalog came along, I was very skeptical and thought, like, it's it's just a nice thing, but it's more like the sparkles. It's not going to be the thing, I mean, it's a catalog. And I think Unity Catalog starts to become the thing now. And Unity Catalog is what I call a multiplier, because imagine as a data engineer, you put all the work in to get really good, pristine data. And then the business comes, and how can they find your work? And Unity Catalog is that multiplier that surfaces the data sets, the dashboards, shows the business user that these are trusted, good sources to build, a dashboard on top of it, and then make decisions based on that dashboard. And trust is critical in data. Like if I don't trust my dashboard, then the whole point of building the solutions are moot. So I think trust is fundamental, and Unity Catalog helps those two things a lot, like giving trust by data quality metrics, surfacing the data, explaining what the data is. It gives an interface for others to look into the data and who uses the data. For me as a data engineer, with Lineage, I can see that if I change this piece of code, what are the downstream notebooks and dashboards and models I affect? This was always it's a very sensitive area where I know that what I'm about to change will have an effect on others, but how do I understand that effect? And Unity Catalog gives you that ability to understand who's using my data, who's using my notebooks, who's using my models, and I can understand what might go wrong, and I can hedge against it. So Unity Catalog, super important because it's a multiplier, but also it gives us the governance that we need to act responsibly, but with also with confidence when we do our job as data engineers or data scientists. And so this person that mentioned that I think it's the sparkles. It turns out that that's the cupcake. That was our conclusion. And I think it's really Unity Catalog is even today underrated in my view. But yeah.
So, I mean, if it's the cupcake, maybe that answers it. But how does it compare to other catalogs and data governance tools out there, would you say?
So, so Unity Catalog has a lot of features now. I still think that it's not the fully, depends on the use case, right? So there are companies who are using Unity Catalog as the data governance tool. And I think it's perfectly fine. But in certain cases, you need more. So Unity Catalog still does not support data shopping, for instance, which is a concept that some companies use. It also, some of the semantic layer stuff that they also did a lot. Databricks announced some metrics. Unity Catalog metrics is, I think, a big step towards a semantic layer. But a really important thing to understand is, even though we data engineers and data people, we think about tables and columns, business users still think about business concepts. So they think about a user, a transaction, a product, something that they understand. And they don't care too much how it's stored, right? But that's that's our word, like how we store the data. Yeah. But there is still that gap, and Unity Catalog still does not cover that fully. So I think in certain cases, certainly there is some advanced features that some companies need. So I think, for instance, Colibra is another go-to catalog. So in that sense, Unity Catalog is not as feature rich. But again, I want to emphasize that it still covers, I would say, the most companies' needs. I'm talking about really large enterprises in regulated industries. But the big benefit of Unity Catalog is the integration. So the amount of work you need to do, or as a company you need to do, to integrate your catalog into your data estate. And again, it's worth mentioning that most companies have a lot of data sources, and an enterprise might have thousands of data sources. So Unity Catalog is integrated into Databricks, and Databricks itself is a unified data platform. And that's a huge, huge advantage, because now you don't need to do all that scaffolding, gluing code And every code you write to integrate things together is code that will at some point go wrong, right? It's another point that it will go wrong. So I think Unity Catalog has this huge advantage being integrated. And I think in certain cases like lineage and data intelligence, so how it uses AI to generate descriptions of the data, how it generates a description for the business users. Now, again, another announcement in Summit is if you go to Unity Catalog, it will do a forecast on the data by default. Like that was a project for us just 3 months ago. That was something that a customer paid us to do, and now you get this out of the box. So that's another case. So I think integration using intelligent features, which I think is the future. Those are the big benefits for Unity Catalog.
Okay, nice. And so zooming out a little, what does Databricks 1 tell us about the overall direction for Databricks?
Yeah, I think I think it's worth mentioning that I think one of the reasons why Databricks became so successful is because they had a vision, and that vision was primarily driven by field experience. So back in the day, I know that this whole unified approach was regarded a bit of a marketing stunt, and I think the same can be said of Lakehouse. And look at all the lake houses out there now. So it turns out that this was not just a narrative, right? There was real benefits for customers, because ultimately it's always customers that do the talking, with their budgets, with what they actually choose. So I think Databricks had a good vision, and I consider the unified approach as the first important vision. The unified platform is still true today, and personally, I still think that's one of the biggest selling point. The second vision is this lakehouse, which is getting all the different data sources and unifying the data warehouse and the data science and the AI. And the next big one is this data intelligence. And the three things that comes together, the unified approach, the lakehouse, and the intelligence, is we can serve the business user better than ever. And I think this is the announcements. If you look at Lakebase with this last mile, the Lakeflow easy data pipelines, Databricks 1. I mean, Databricks just has a new experience, which is really important one, because so far, whenever I talk to a CIO or a head of data and said, okay, Unity Catalog is great, but Máté, how do I put this in front of a business user? Like, there is Python, there is SQL, there is all these menus, there is all these things. Like, no way I can put this in front of a business user. And I probably also don't want to let a business user in your data engineering experience, because they might actually try something, but there was always this gap. And Databricks 1 is this whole new experience that now you can put in front of business users. So I think that's a big step. And then you look at metrics, which covers the gap between business understanding, business context, and us data engineers, and data quality. And for me, all that means is we are reaching out to the business users and putting more and more in front of them right out of the platform. Because so far, we've always put things in front of them in a Power BI dashboard, an internal app, and all of those things will still stay there. But Databricks starts to eat it up, right? So Databricks 1, Databricks apps, another one, Genie. Like, what is the ultimate data democratization? It's language, right? If I can just ask. Who are my top salespeople in Europe? I mean, if you don't even need a dashboard anymore, that pretty much gives you the ultimate democratization. So Genie, another example. So for me, the Databricks direction is unifying even further, moving that wall, reaching out to the business user, and bringing them into the play directly.
Okay. So lots of improvements, lots of announcements. Despite all that, what does Databricks still lack?
Yeah, so I think I have two answers. Sometimes Databricks has a good vision, and I realize that actually I missed that. So I have that feeling now. So I think Lakebase was something that I did not feel that it was missing, but now thinking about it, it actually did miss that. Now that I think back, but for me, because as a data engineer and my work is based on the business value we create. So I always come back like, what do we need to do, or what the Databricks as a platform needs to do to even increase or get more business value. For me, that's semantic layer. Certainly, like if you could have business definitions, and again, what is a semantic layer is up to interpretation to a certain extent, because metrics starts to become one. For some companies, it will be enough, so you can call it a day. But I think that there is still some way to go there to get to the point where even much larger organizations can use that. I think data governance still, especially regulated industries, large enterprises with multiple jurisdictions, like operations in multiple jurisdictions. So think about a bank, operates in the US, operates in the UK, operates in EU. Like 3 different jurisdictions, different data sovereignty laws, different requirements, and the scale is much larger. Like in a mid-market enterprise, so let's say a company with 500, 600 people, employees, you can still keep a good understanding about what data sources you have. But once you move to a larger bank, there are thousands, if not more. In a manufacturing environment, even thousands of data sources. So how do we get transparency into those data sources, in those data assets? That would be an important one. Generally, my vision is my vision for an ultimate data platform would be that data intelligence that they have now gets more and more business understanding. Like imagine if at some point you don't say select everything from this table, but select all my commercial users in the UK. And that means what is UK? Because again, the UK has different meanings from a data perspective.
Sure.
What is a user? Is it retail, commercial, small commercial, enterprise accounts in a bank? All active users, or also users who were part of the bank? That's business understanding. If we could get that, then that would mean for me the ultimate thing. So more intelligence, that would be an important one. So I think those are the main ones. And migration is always a pain point for customers, because to build the business case, the business project, you need the data. And often the data is not a greenfield development, right? It's somewhere there, and you need to migrate. So I think Lakebase is a good start, but we need to see how it performs. I think migration is always a very difficult topic.
Yeah, sure. So just bringing it back to the topic, what should data engineers be doing now to stay relevant in this fast-moving space?
Yeah. So if you look at the large trends. So when I started in the Hadoop ecosystem, as I mentioned, my background is in distributed systems, but I was also pretty good in Java, programming Java. And so I was a good fit for that because data scientists wrote the code in R, the language R, if you're not familiar. Mm-hmm. And then I wrote it in Java. So basically I was an overpaid compiler. And then, but that knowledge became obsolete. And then I had to build systems. Now, we build systems together. But with AI, if you look at that, writing code is not that valuable anymore. It's still valuable. I don't want to discount it, but it's just not as valuable as it was. And being able to write an ingestion pipeline is still valuable, but not as valuable as 3 months ago or before the summit, because all of these platformizations plus AI is, I'm not sure if I buy the AI will replace all software engineers, because I think in history there was always these big developments where, spreadsheets will make the accounting industry obsolete and you can't find the good accountants nowadays available. So I think, the leverage we have is bigger and bigger. So I don't think using AI or AI getting better in generating code, or the Databricks assistant in Databricks generating more queries will make us obsolete. But I do think we need to evolve towards getting better at helping the business understand how the technology can help them, translating that and implementing that. And the implementation part will change. So the skill that will be always there is how you can explain the business value and the value in the solution and the technology, number one. And by the way, that's why I think, working for a consulting company is super useful, even if you want to, if your future is in a product company, still work 5 years for a consulting company, because I think the most successful engineers, even in a product company, are the ones who are really good consulting their internal stakeholders, because this skill, bridging the gap between the user and the technology is always useful. And then on the implementation side, I think now platform understanding is very important. Databricks as a platform is getting really big. So no one should discount the importance of keeping up with the technology. I think Databricks is now the default choice or number one choice for data platforms. Therefore, I think understanding Databricks is really important for your short-term or mid-term career. And inside Databricks, the new features, but certainly Python is the number one choice now, and SQL. SQL, just to be completely honest, I talked about someone mistook the importance of Unity Catalog. At some point, I said that SQL will disappear and Python will take its place. Well, it turns out that SQL is still the cupcake, but I don't want to overstretch that metaphor, because I think SQL is making a comeback, which was not my not on my bingo card. So I think SQL and Python is the way to go, and that in that structure.
Okay, really really useful for people listening. And how about from the business perspective? What should leaders be thinking about now, sort of post-summit?
Yeah, I think I talked to a CIO, and we were discussing how to sell the cost of development to a CFO. And I think, there's a lot of hype in AI, right? That's not really a big insight. But I think it showed enough potential that it might bring a large part of the promises. And even if it's just a fraction of the promises, can you risk not getting in? Because it's clear that if you start today, you're not going to use your AI, but in this sense, in an enterprise, AI is also the Microsoft Copilot, but also the AI you develop as part of on top of your data estate. So the things you do in Databricks. So those things take more time to get used to or get familiar than a month or a quarter. So you need to get in, because if your competitor will reduce their customer service cost by 20%, then that's a big advantage on the ultimate price. If they get better digital features through the mobile bank or the mobile application, if they get better customer service, if they can generate better products, there's all kinds of ways companies can use that. So if it really just brings a fraction of the promises, then can you afford not to get in? And I think it's always a risky argument, but I think it's true. And then for specific industries like banking and others, real-time analytics is getting real-time decision power is important. And people across all industries expect immediate action. Bank users want immediate account opening, immediate loan classification, so whether I get the loan or not. Retail users want immediate basket return, delivery, immediate discounts, and I can go on and on. But across the industries, everyone wants to have everything immediately, and behind all of those features, you need a platform like Databricks. So I think generally for business users, the efficiency gains and the customer expectations are almost, in my view, mandate investing in these technologies.
Okay, really good. Some brilliant insights there. I think you're going to be talking about similar at your own meetup later on today. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a pretty busy day, I have to say. Usually I don't do this, but Summit is. I was not joking when I said it's the highlight of the year, because everyone wants to understand what it means, what it was like, what are the features. So today we have a meetup, and I think we're going to talk about what this means for us, developers, architects, but also business users want to understand, because everyone is reading about AI, and in a way we are the ones who are getting this out of the factory door. So it's certainly very busy days after Summit.
Yeah, for sure. Crammed pack for a good week or two, right?
Yeah.
Nice. And
getting
if anyone listening wants to follow up with you or learn more about Datapao or speak to an MVP, then where should they go?
Yeah, so I think LinkedIn is always the number one way to connect to people, I think. So so I think LinkedIn, number one, obviously our website, datapao.com, but also just search engines. They always work.
Very good. Brilliant. Well, yeah, like I say, brilliant insights there. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Máté.
No, thank you for having me on the show.
Cool. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.